Hi, dear language learners. Today, let's talk about how you can break free from the top mistakes that 90% of people do when learning languages, and how to actually use the fundamental social laws of psychology to give your brain what it needs to finally become fluent. Top mistakes, and please bear with me, the last one is the one you need to finally break free. For those of you who are new, welcome to the channel. I'm Dr. Alex. I'm a social psychologist and I'm a language coach, and I bring to you my experience as a social psychologist, but also my own experience as a language learner. I actually learn my fifth language at the moment, which is Italian. So check out the channel, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, especially if you're also studying Italian, because I share also my flashcards and my own experience of learning quicker every time a new language. And my aim on this channel is really to have you speak with unshakable confidence and to overcome all these frequent mistakes that are so common. It's like as if you were focusing on the wrong thing, and my aim is to help you get back on track. What is actually the essence of language learning? So let's start. Number one of the totally frequent mistakes I see in my classes, and I see on videos as well on YouTube when people talk about methods of study. It's all about how you study, and it's when studying focuses on the wrong thing. So you might feel productive studying the language, but actually you're doing productively the wrong thing. There is this kind of myth that came up with, I guess, with the traditional schooling system, that language learning needs to be about mainly passive memorization of vocabulary. And this is not the focus at all. This is also necessary, but it's a later priority. The first priority is speaking and playing that instrument. So before you go into passive study and taking in lots of vocabulary and grammar, you need to feel, first of all, yes, you need to actually feel the language. Our brains are wired in such a way that you need to experience, live, and speak the language so it relates to your real life, and your brain goes, oh, I need to memorize that. You can tap into acquiring a language much easier if you create a routine that focuses on what is relevant to your real life. What do you say every day in your other languages? And how would you say the same thing in the next target language? It needs to be something that makes your life, or that is relevant to your life. So that's the first thing. So you need to change what you focus on. So, for example, in my personal study routine, I have at least 5 minutes a day where I focus on a sentence I would say anyway in my daily routine. I either focus on what I said last in my current language, or what I will say, what I will need for a future conversation. And then I think, okay, how would I say that in Italian? These are sentences that are relevant to my life, because when your brain needs something to express and to engage with other people, and this is where the social psychology kicks in, your brain goes, oh, this is important, I need to memorize it. And then you go out automatically into memorization without this kind of assumption that you need to sit down with a book and study. Studying is important, but studying needs to be for your real life and related to your real life. So there is a mindset shift here, and there's a study routine shift. It's two things. The mindset is what you actually do. You don't need to assume that it's studying for a degree. It's more how you include that new language in your everyday life to actually tap into memory. And these shifts, when you do them, you start to feel differently about how you actually acquire the language. It's not anymore an act of studying, it's an act of experiencing the language. That's number one. Number two is a mindset thing. It's all my students come in with this mindset thing at the beginning of any course I give. It's an assumption, and you need to actually train yourself to not have that assumption. Really, it is so important. I can't stress it enough. People assume that acquiring a new language is a complex undertaking. It's really complex. So they go, and I was actually myself having that assumption when I studied my first foreign language, which was English. I thought, oh, this is really complex and complicated. It would take me years of study to learn it. And if you think like that, you program your brain that it's actually really far away to actually speak. So what you need to switch in the way in which you think about a new language is you need to every day say, this is really easy because I'm just gonna train myself in one sentence. And the real magic comes in when you do every day just one sentence. That feels really easy because that will pile up. I mean, let's do the math. If you do that every day, one sentence, that feels really easy. You will have a whole year of really easy sentences, but add them up to you will start to kind of connect the puzzle pieces and finally speak. And the speaking practice of adding up really a lot of easy sentences that you have said and that you have practiced and repeated every day of the year, that is actually what makes you become fluent in a kind of natural and joyful way. Because what I stress always, it's our brain also memorizes quicker what is enjoyable, what is something that you experience as fun, something that you enjoy, something that you have positive emotions. So switch your mindset to get out of that complexity trap. You need to switch your mindset to this is really fun. I enjoy this. And this, I mean, as those of you who are passionate learners will know, anything that is fun is acquired easier because you will feel, oh, I want to get back to it because last time it was so much fun. Because I actually was able to use that sentence already with that friend, with that neighbor, or with that fluent speaker of my target language. So that was number 2. Number 3 of the top errors is that you tend to believe, or we all tend to believe, that traditional methods are better than methods from recent brain research. So, for example, what I used to think as well, I was like, okay, over the last decades, languages have been taught in that grammar-focused way. So, if people had that social consensus that this is right, it needs to be right as well. Now, yes, of course, grammar is important because it teaches you the system of how the language goes together. But recent research on how our brains are wired and how they rewire for new things have actually shown that if you focus on only the system and only perfection, you will block your brain from absorbing that. What the brain needs is fun, social experience, and relevance to your real life. And so we need to actually change a little bit our expectations. We need to think, okay, traditional methods have been good for the context given in that time, but now let's incorporate recent, research and this knowledge of how our brain works to actually learn smarter. This image of studying really hard and sitting there with a book and kind of forcing yourself, that is from the old days. It's something we need to completely throw overboard. We need to start thinking about learning whenever you laugh, whenever you move around a room, whenever you repeat out loud and make lots of mistakes. That is learning. So the embodiment of learning, how you see yourself of studying for language, needs to change. Of course, you can have in your 5 minutes per day some passive study where you sit there with a book or with an app or with a video where you take in the language. That is important as well, don't get me wrong. But what I'm talking about is this, what actually brings you closer to your fluency is it needs to be something where you move around, you have fun, you do mistakes, somebody corrects you, then you do another kind of repetition of your favorite sentence, then you laugh out loud because you sounded ridiculous, and then you kind of enjoy this whole experience of integrating another language into your life. So the active study actually needs to shift from thinking about studying as something really hard to thinking about studying and acquiring and learning and memorizing as something joyful. Now, the next one is the way in which you shift priorities around. The priority, as I said in the introduction, is not actually on the system and the logic and the perfection of how you get things right. And I notice actually in my courses as well, I do that mistake constantly. I need to actually shift my mindset as a language coach as well. I always say to people, oh, that was not right. And there is no right or wrong in terms of, yes, we need to, of course, correct the grammar. But then, in terms of accent or the way in which you pronounce it, of course, it will be your own way of pronouncing it. You should come as close to that people will understand you. But what I don't want people to believe is that you need to sound exactly like your language teacher in order to have the permission to speak. No. So this kind of thinking of being right as a permission to finally speak fluently, that needs to go overboard. This assumption that in order to be able to speak, we need to be correct in grammar and in the accent. No, we can speak already on an A1 level with many mistakes, of course, with many kind of ways in which you pronounce it. Doesn't matter. This is your first step into fluency. It's like how we acquired all our first language, our maternal language, is you start to imitate your parents, you start to imitate the people around you. And of course, at the beginning, it's kind of baby speak. It's not something that you would say, oh, this is correct. But would a baby wait until it knows all the grammar rules of a language in order to speak? I think you see what I mean. It's kind of this prioritizing speaking before language perfection or grammar perfection. That is important. You need to focus on repetitions of speaking. Speak every of your sentences, your daily sentences, at least 7 times so that you get that into your ear. You need to develop your voice print. That is what you need to focus on and not the grammar. And now the final one, the fifth error that I see frequently and are my top errors that people make is I used to have that as well, to think that accent, your personal way of pronouncing the language is bad. People always go when they say something, oh, that didn't sound right, did it? And then they interrupt themselves and freeze. Of course, when you practice a language, it doesn't sound like the other speakers, and you will never sound like any other speaker anyway, because you're unique. So you need to it's a mindset shift. You need to think, yeah, it's completely normal. It's my way of speaking. I mean, even your mother tongue, it's your way of speaking. You don't sound like any other speaker because otherwise we would all be identical. So you need to kind of start to say it's completely normal that I have an accent because this is the way I sound, because I have been trained to pronounce vowels in a certain way. Of course, it needs to be pronounced in such a way that you are able to communicate. Of course, this is what the voice training is for. But what we need to what we need to break free from that blocking mindset assumptions is to think that accent is bad. No, and it's not anything wrong with having an accent. Every person on this world has an accent. So in order to speak and to get started with a new language, you need to actually develop your voice print. I actually don't talk about accents anymore. I think it's your personal voice print that needs to develop until you have practiced so much that people say, oh yeah, you can actually, you're fluent now. You can master any social situation. So what is the criteria? The criteria is actually how many different social contexts are you able to master and to communicate without any misunderstandings. Well, of course, there are always misunderstandings in human communication, but I want to say not those misunderstandings that emerge due to pronouncing the E in a different way or something like that. Okay, so the criteria is not how perfect you can recite, a vocabulary list. That is not the criteria. It is, can you actually master the social situation? Can you engage in a real conversation with somebody who speaks the language already? And can you have a meaningful exchange without freezing, without blocking yourself, without experiencing kind of guilt or shame that you can't speak properly, which is not the case. Now, I actually would like to hear from you. What is your preferred way to integrate your next language into your daily routine? What are your little hacks? Let's exchange on tips and tricks to get over these blockers as I just outlined them. You know, these frequent errors, if you can relate to them, please share how you get over them, because what we want to do on YouTube is have a community to support each other. So if this resonated, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also check out my daily Italian flashcards if you're learning Italian as well. And let me know how this resonated with you. Thanks so much for spending the time with me today, and have a great language practice day. you